Okay, Neil, we're going to give you a rundown on how everything is set up here and what you do to start it and prime it and all that. So as you can see, the battery setup is set up for two 12-volt batteries, and we have the two batteries tied together here and here to make a 12-volt from, or 24 from here to here. So anyways, and then we have the start and stop button. When you pull out on the stop button, it engages the fuel pump. You can hear it. Okay, the rheostat is for the proportional valve right here, which right now I just have it unhooked, electrically unhooked. Down below here you can see the wiring harness coming from the control module for that. I just have it unhooked right here. So you just connect these two and then it's hooked back up. This will provide a 0 to 10 volt supply to this to give it the proportional differing to the tank or to the engine. So you really, it's not going to be that high. You're only going to want it, you know, in the say 1 to 3. You'll have to experiment with this. You should put a voltage regulator on so that you're not using the 12 volts, rather 10 volts. You should drop that down with a rectifier, or sorry, a regulator, which I can help you with that if you wish. Okay, so there's the main fuel solenoid, or the solenoid that turns the fuel on to the combustion chamber, but it goes plumbed into the diversion proportional valve that puts the fuel you don't want to use back to the tank. And then off of the fuel pump, high pressure fuel pump, there's also a diversion for unused fuel goes back to the tank. So this I'm going to include. I can't include the tank because we can't ship that. Next is your ignition module here. Now I did notice a number of times a bit of sparks coming out of here, so perhaps something that you might want to look into, and Chris, my friend that has the hydraulic pump, he might have another one of these. I think it's just humidity that the odd time makes it want to spark a bit, but it doesn't seem to impair the starting of the engine. Okay, so whenever you pull the fuel on, it turns the fuel pump on, and you leave that on. I'm going to shut it off right now, but you leave it on, and then you push the start button, which will then start the starter. Okay, so you will pull up on the start, the emergency stop, get the fuel pump going, then you'll push down on the start button and get it to at least about 60% speed, which is somewhere around, with good charged batteries, about 15 seconds. Okay, so this is the proportional valve control module. Now you are going to have to play around with this, and I have the information for the manufacturer that you can get more information. They're very helpful, but you can see there's a number of dials that are for proportional gain and all that. You're going to have to read up on it. It does make a difference, this, in order for it to work properly. I have been able to get it to go around 50-60% speed, but it does, the engine itself is inherent that you cannot decrease the speed of the engine very fast or it will flame out. So you got to play around with that. I was planning on putting a microprocessor in there to control the rate of deceleration of the engine. So what else can I tell you? Here is where your hydraulic valve is going to go on here, or hydraulic pump rather. This is your high pressure fuel pump. Now right at the end here is a lock nut and an Allen key that will adjust the final speed of the engine. Now whatever you do, don't change this until you hook up a tack onto it, because right now it's set at the factory set. I have it set at factory set high speed, and you don't want to play around with this because excuse me, if you increase the speed you'll get more horsepower, but this engine could you know, do things you don't want it to do. People have done that. They've gotten about 140% of the power output, but this engine is built with probably a 1.5 service factor, which means it'll run pretty well forever if you run it the way it's set up. So in a few minutes here we'll do a well, I guess I could do a run up right now in my shop. This is the powered parachute that it was going to go into, but I need some more horsepower. So in fact, perhaps we'll just give it a run up. Fuel. Wear earplugs. That's not going to work because batteries are low, so I got to put the charger on it here. Just give me a minute.